Hello, I'm Rahul Gul, Senior Editor with National Herald, and with me here is Mrinal Pande. She's a senior journalist and well-known author. Today we are going to focus our discussion on Pegasus, the Israeli software that has allegedly been planted on the phones of several activist lawyers, which is compromised their privacy, especially with regard to their WhatsApp conversations that everybody always thought were very secure. The government has hotly denied bringing this into the country. Nandi, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, the government is bound to deny that it had any hand in it. But what people are asking is that the company itself, the Enso company, which is a private company based in Israel, it has said that it only sells its ware to governments. This also is an extremely expensive spyware.
Yeah, it costs several million dollars.
Individuals, it will be very difficult to invest in something like this. And why should they want to do unless they have a huge business empire to protect and certain political interests?
Right.
So it makes you wonder. But even if our government had not bought it, the spyware makers are saying that they have sold it to Mexico, to Ghana,
yeah.
and also to Egypt.
No, the NSO group in Israel, which makes this thing, they have clearly stated that they only sell it to governments, and also it takes a lot of training.
Then it's also very strange that if they have been selling it so far to governments, how come in case of India they made an exception?
Yeah, exactly.
And if they did make an exception, then the government should be the interested party in hotly trying to find out. Instead of denying, also hotly to find out how the hell an individual dared to buy such a sensitive spyware which could compromise the government's own security apparatus.
Also, ma'am, I believe the government has not officially denied this thing because the WhatsApp has sued the NSO group in America, and a lot of things may tumble out. So officially, the government line is the government and the judges are not so easy. So this thing, pliable.
One expects a lot of interesting facts to tumble out, primarily because WhatsApp, as you know, is owned by Facebook.
Right.
Facebook has said that it will continue to give political advertising space within its system, whereas Twitter, the other microblogging site, has said that it will not permit political advertising. Now, the American elections are around the corner, and Democrats and many other parties would be extremely interested in knowing if this spyware is being used by any agency in the USA to compromise the system.
But an interesting fact that I came across was that the NSO group prohibits the software from being used on Israelis and Americans. I came across this interesting fact somewhere.
So in any case, while the case is on, I think parties interested will try to take out. It's also interesting, even in India, there is a gentleman called Saurabh Das who has filed over a dozen PILs trying to get to the root of our own systems of protecting a citizen's privacy. You know, our constitution gives us an absolute right to total privacy. It also needs, in this age of net and spyware and so on, that we have very tight laws guarding the privacy of the citizens and also of the government. The government is supreme and it must be guarded. Now, when he filed the PIL, the replies he got were very disappointing, and the replies said that though in 2018, that is a year ago, retired Justice Krishna had crafted a draft legislation for protecting, very tightly protecting.
But this fell through.
But it has so far not been brought up. So we suggest, in fact, it would be a good idea for the Parliament to take it up in the winter session.
The Pegasus controversy has opened a can of worms. WhatsApp says it had informed the Indian government twice about the breach relating to certain individuals and even named the victims. But apparently the government didn't really do anything about it.
The government has said that the letters that they sent were so riddled with technical jargon, and therefore they were very difficult to understand.
Which is a very strange explanation considering that they were sent to CERN the government's primary
I
computers.
think our government is particularly well armed in decoding
Right.
and in keeping such spyware in check, and therefore it seems strange that the government, like individuals like us, is throwing up its hands and saying that it could not make head or tail out of those warnings. It seems a little strange, but whatever the fact may be, the fact is that these two warnings came on the eve of elections. It's strange.
Yeah.
The first warning, if I'm not mistaken,
May,
came in
May 2019.
yes, and the next one came in September.
Yes.
Well, if it was as early as May, just on the eve of elections, this warning had been sent, it should have created great stirrings.
And if the warning was sent in these months, that means that the planting of the snooping software must have been done in the months leading up to the elections.
Right, because it takes at least, I think, a couple of fortnights to put it in place.
Right.
What also makes you wonder is, since India, after a long time, now has a fairly good relationship with the Israeli government, and the NSA in particular
he could have
enjoys
just,
a very good and a very healthy relationship with the Israeli army. One wonders why he didn't, even when this letter came, one wonders why his office didn't apprise him of it, and he could have just picked up the phone and alerted the Israeli government that this private company is breaching our security.
On the contrary, what the government has done now is, when the whole this episode came up, they have actually asked WhatsApp to explain, which is a very strange thing to do.
Well, WhatsApp will explain where it explains, when it explains, because the case is going on in the USA. But let me remind you, in USA there are very strict and very clear laws about breaching privacy. You have to obtain a judge's order before you can do this kind of a thing.
Unlike in India.
In our country, as I just told you, the Justice Krishna bill is still pending approval, and I think that the government and the citizens must all push that it be passed.
Right now, the scenario is that the Home Secretary can just randomly authorize the agencies to start tapping phones. In fact, this is a situation which needs to be addressed urgently. Also, yesterday the Congress spokesperson held a press conference and said Mrs. Priyanka Gandhi's phone was also targeted. That means even opposition was not spared. If so, what are the names? What could be the other names? One wonders. This just
One would not like to hazard a guess,
Right.
but it's interesting that people who are fighting the case on behalf of people who have been incarcerated in the Bhima Koregaon case, both social activists and lawyers, have been targeted with this spyware. And also, if Mrs. Vadra's phone was indeed targeted, then it's very, very worrisome, because that means that other top opposition leaders or even leaders in the government itself may have been targeted. So I think from all angles it's imperative that the government takes note of it, and the opposition also presses that this should be tackled and the fact should be highlighted.
Particularly because this Pegasus software can apparently just take over your phone remotely. It's not just about WhatsApp. It's about, it can access your contacts. It can switch on your camera. It can start recording conversations.
Right, it's
So this
like
is
a pretatma entering your body and taking over all your functioning.
Right.
So it is extremely
And
dangerous.
it also makes us wonder that now that people are aware of this thing, any other big organization or a group of coders could very well, sit down and come up with a software.
It would certainly encourage copycat snoopers, and that's not a healthy thing at all.
And in the case of Pegasus, they were making video calls through WhatsApp, and somebody could come up with a far more subtle way, simply send you an innocuous looking marketing SMS to plant the. So yeah, it is something which all of us
need to take note of.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Mrinalji, and we will be back next week with something new. Thank you very much for watching.